Welcome to the AI. Ready the podcast for Lucy and Andrew.
Welcome to the AI Readiness podcast 3. We're getting on well. I think we've got a bit of a hit record on our hand. We've had loads of great feedback, so we're very excited about bringing you more key content about making AI adoption easier and giving you practical insights for organizational leaders.
Exactly. AI Readiness. It does what it says on the tin. This is to be practical advice and tips from people that are actually doing it, not just the thought leaders, talking blah, big stuff. This is real world. This is real life.
We're doing it. We're hands-on. We're mucky. We're filthy. We've got like grit between our fingernails, AI grit. And this is in line with Uptake AI's mission, right? So we're co-founders of Uptake AI. We're focused on effective AI adoption. And we twigged really early on and we set our business up because we knew that there's a massive human component.
Yeah, really, really proud of that because we saw right at the beginning that people need to be considered right at the core. They're the number one asset in any organisation. And I want to continue with that.
So we have got a lot of things to share with you in this episode. We've got some breaking news, conversations in the field. We had a really good hands-on experience with an HR team, and there's lots to talk about that because there are wider implications that you can learn from. We've got Ian from Cromwell Tools, who's a chief digital officer. We've got a tame, real chief digital officer who can come in and talk about Gen AI and big things as well.
I'm really excited about that. I just hope he's not going to kind of talk in code.
No, he's been fully briefed.
I wonder if is he going to be sitting in a cupboard, like the IT people, someone over there.
He'll have a glass dome over his head and loads of wires going into his skull. Probably not. And then we've got a really interesting Dear Lucy letter ahead of us with somebody who's experiencing a bit of overwhelm.
That's totally fine, darling. I am here for you.
All right, let's get cracking with breaking news. What's new, Lucy?
Well, one of the things I was going to mention, I have seen a lot of people out and about in the world talking about how they are talking to their ChatGPT. And they're asking the question, based on my interactions with you, describe what you think of me.
Pointless question, but a bit of fun.
Yeah. But it's really quite interesting, isn't it? And actually, I have even seen, and I love this, a teacher who used generative AI based on the children's aspirations to create an image of what the children will look like in their aspired role in 20 years' time, and then gave it to the children. So obviously one had said, I want to be a soldier, I want to be a fireman. And it was just amazing.
That is amazing. So going back to because it's a bit of a fad, we keep our finger on the pulse of fads, right? So asking ChatGPT what it thinks about you as a psychologist, right? There's no way that you've put enough, I've been using ChatGPT for like 1,500 hours. There's no way I've put enough in for it to actually give me a good snapshot of my personality. But I think it might be a bit of a laugh just to try it now. Like, what's your appetite for doing that? High risk, no prep.
Yeah,
see what it says.
I guess it also comes down to what you use ChatGPT for. If it's purely professional, I guess the response is going to be more in that realm. But, hey, people do use it to help them plan meals and to help them in their daily life with their kids and what have you. So, maybe it will take from that. But yeah, I'm well up for a go.
I'm probably not the only person who's thinking, what if one of my loved ones picked up ChatGPT and said, hey, based on our searches, tell me about the things you're searching about. Divorce lawyers, so there's something to think about. But go on then. Do you dare ask it, right, about your personality? Probably best keep it to like a 30-word response, otherwise it'll go on all day.
Okay, hang on. Let's see if this works.
You've got such a big, lovely personality, Lucy. That's all I'm saying.
Hi there. Good morning.
Hi there. How's it going?
Yeah, really well, thank you. I just wondered, based on all of our interactions over the time that we've been working together, can you describe what you think of me?
Absolutely, Lucy. From our conversations, you come across as a dynamic and forward-thinking professional. You're deeply involved in AI and automation, showing a keen interest in integrating these technologies ethically and effectively into organizations. Your work with various companies and events highlights your strategic approach and leadership skills. You're also passionate about empowering others.
Here you go. Let's have a go then. Let's see what it knows about me. Let's just enable the posh chat. Here we go. Hey, ChatGPT.
Hey there, how's it going?
Yeah, not so bad, thanks. In 50 words, can you tell me what you know about me from all of our chats?
You're a British occupational psychologist leading Uptake AI, focusing on AI literacy and organizational culture. You're designing workshops, coaching sessions, and exploring AI adoption strategies. You enjoy paragliding and are planning a holiday with your family.
In 25 words, can you tell me something about me that people wouldn't like?
You might come across as overly ambitious or work-focused, which some might interpret as being too driven or lacking in work-life balance. Your focus on AI might seem impersonal to some.
All right, mate, easy. There you go. Like, do you dare to say, like, what are the things that people might dislike about me? I asked it that question earlier because I was a bit scared about what it would improvise, and it was like, you might come across as a bit too forceful. I'm like, all right, thanks for the feedback.
You got the paragliding in there.
I had a question about that because I saw in LinkedIn there was a lot of people posting, don't be nice to ChatGPT, don't be nice to AI tools. Their argument was like, you don't say thank you to your hammer or your spanner or your paintbrush, so why would you do it with AI?
Good question. Well, the short answer is be polite, because when the robots come, they'll remember you. And the longer answer is, why not be polite? Like, if you're in the habit of using polite language, you'll probably be in the habit of staying polite to human beings. So, like, just stay in the habit of being polite, right, Lucy?
Agreed. And we don't want to build bad habits of just being an arse.
Last quick news update from this week is that Sam Altman from OpenAI has actually come out and said that he thinks that general AI will be available in 2025. That's AI that kind of learns from dynamic situations and is a little bit, a lot closer to human intelligence. But people it doesn't seem to be landing very well, and there's a lot of skepticism about it. So as the story unfolds, we'll keep you in the loop.
Yeah, I kind of think, look, let people understand, embrace, and really accelerate with the generative AI that we have, and then we'll go from there. But one other breaking news, actually, and it's a ChatGPT. It's funny that there is less breaking news about Copilot in a way, but you can now, so I could share that voice clip if I wanted to, but you can download your interactions and your voice clips and WhatsApp them, email them to people. So does that kind of prompt any ideas of how that could be used in the business context?
I love it. So, like, if I'm in L&D, for example, and a line manager's told me they're great at coaching, I could say, well, just record a conversation of yourself coaching ChatGPT so I can hear it and send it to me. So it's a really quick way for people to practice conversations and get feedback. So that's the first thing I think of. There's loads more use cases, no doubt. Maybe a sales conversation, that sort of thing. Yeah,
brainstorming ideas.
So that's a really cool tool. Let's get into conversations in the field.
I love it when I'm in a field.
Why did the Scarecrow win an award? Because it was outstanding in its field. Ha ha ha. So we had a great day with an HR team from a housing association the other day, right? It was just full of fun and vim and vigor. And the conversation's so rich, it's like hard to choose one bit.
And you know what? I genuinely felt sad when the day ended. I had completely embraced their culture, their fun, their inclusiveness, and just their massive passion to be innovative and think of new and fun and great ways that they can support their stakeholders. And I just love it when you see that true passion in a team. And this is a big team.
Like 25 people, wasn't it? It was a funny moment when you had that sad moment. Like you were kind of, it was almost like a wedding when people are going past and you're going, thank you. Thanks, it's been really good. Thanks. So I noticed you getting a bit sadder.
And they were carrying on the party and I was now leaving it. So yeah, but that, just goes to show they were such a lovely, lovely group. It was all about how can we use generative AI as a HR function, not only just to be more efficient, but the real kind of focus was so that we can do more, provide more, better care, support for our stakeholders. And one of the ideas that came out of that meeting was, for example, a lot of their team, their people, may be on the road traveling between different properties from time to time. And so thinking of new ways to use generative AI to disseminate information in ways that will be useful and practical for people that are in the car.
Yeah. So we always set people practical. So we keep it practical, right? So we get a group together and we say there are sort of some key big buckets of activity. There's comms, content creation, there is data analysis, and there's sort of learning and what have you. And they picked the comms bucket. And within 25 minutes, they had an actual proper podcast that we could listen to, generated with generative AI using Notebook LM, which is a Google product, which we talked about at length on our podcast number 2, if you're interested. And they had a podcast ready to go in 25 minutes. They didn't have to hire a voiceover person or get a studio or anything. It was just done. Amazing, wasn't it?
And it just shows that the brain, the mind, the ideas were going, how else could we use tools like this to make things land better? Because they know it's difficult for people to keep on top of emails and lengthy documents that they've got to read. But a 10-minute kind of broadcast, and it could be something from the top in terms of the, new ideas, new products, or what have you, or as much as the latest health and safety note that needs to be embraced.
So it's a bit like lighting the touch paper, So our guest who's coming up later, Ian, talks about when you show people how the tools work, you feel like you're lighting a touch paper. And when you come back and you just see a bit of gentle smouldering, it's a bit of a surprise. You expect people to go, oh my goodness, and really pick it up and run with it. With this team, my sense was we were lighting a touch paper. But once you've lit the touch paper, go on.
People need to feel emotion, they need to get excited, they need to understand and get over any elements of anxiety or fear or lack of understanding to be able to do that. And what was really clear from that day is the importance of having access. I mean, maybe this is more relevant to HR, but for them to have access to a number of different tools. I mean, they saw in the room some of the limitations with some over others.
Yeah, like we don't want to be Copilot haters, but it's like a muzzled ChatGPT, isn't it? And I think there's a special case for L&D and HR teams to have access to more tools than just Copilot, because you need to understand the beast in order to understand the potential and sort of, and also the risks, because people in your organization might be using ChatGPT. Rather than stick your fingers in your ears, if it's banned, then you need to be understanding it, right?
Yeah, and so I'd be interested to ask Ian what his take on that is.
Mm-hmm.
From an organisational point of view, because everybody seems to be just automatically on the kind of negative and the fear side of ChatGPT, but are there ways to ring fence it, or, as you said, perhaps allocate an area of the business which, we must train and trust our people? If we can't trust our people, what's the point?
Absolutely. And this brings us to like the sort of one of the big kind of outcomes, so the team leader, the HR director who sort of invited us in for that exploration day said, I think I need to talk to IT. And, our mission is to sort of embolden and increase awareness of HR teams to go and have that conversation, because otherwise you just end up in the sort of classic, look, I'm really busy. You get Copilot in Q4 next year. Just leave me alone until then. Yeah,
exactly. And now they have seen the difference. They know what and why to ask for.
Absolutely. But the feeling at the end of the day, as well as you being sad with the wedding line as people were leaving, was like how fast people picked up the tools. Like people who were reluctant in the first instance kind of came away going, oh, it's not so bad, is it? Actually, it was quite useful. And you're like, that's the thing that you get when you get people together working on real problems.
And also the mindset shift from, call it a fixed mindset, to a growth mindset, because there were definitely a few people in the room that initially thought generative AI is killing original thought, for example, and content isn't authentic because you can spot ChatGPT posts on LinkedIn or articles a mile off, which we know is true. But when you dive into the real way to engage and collaborate with the tools and not one-stop prompt, there is a huge difference. And it was like a light bulb moment bit, which is what we love.
Adventures in AI. These are the things we've been up to, like tool wrangling ourselves this week. So we talked about the social, let's talk about the technical. Yeah. I've been working on a dog of a project, an absolute pig dog, nasty beast of a nasty, horrible thing. And I wish I'd never said yes.
Pigs aren't nasty and nor are dogs, just saying.
Okay, fine. So a potential customer sort of / colleague said, could you build me a bot that takes a set of data that we've pulled from a learning management system, which is like a, performance data, and automate it so you can put it into ChatGPT and it will write a report. And I'm like, yeah, it's probably doable. I don't really do it, but seeing as you're a mate, I'll sort of come alongside you and help you to build that bot. before I did that, I thought, let's have a look at the feasibility of it. And it's just been an absolute monster task to get ChatGPT to analyze a messy data set and get it cleaned up and actually do it all in one go.
What
To the
sort
point
of
where
data? Like, are we talking loads of different spreadsheets or documents?
Let's just say it's an Excel sheet, but when you pull it from the learning management system, loads of boxes are empty. Some of the text is stored as text, some of it's numbers. It's just really dirty data. And so training the ChatGPT to actually clean the data up and then do the thing has just been an absolute beast. And I spent 4 hours like hitting it with a stick and actually shouting at it, going, come on, losing the will to live, and actually thinking, this is pointless. I wish I'd have just said no. And then I sort of like, I thought, well, yeah, everyone says that Claude, by Anthropic, is quite a good data analyst. And it's a bit like ChatGPT, but it sort of looks a bit different. Drop the data in, boom, analysed it correctly first time round. So 4 hours down the toilet, and then I realised that Claude could just crack it straight away. And then I started doing it in Claude, and then now Claude is doing it in such a way that it won't format it properly so I can cut and paste into Word. So ChatGPT, brilliant at writing reports. Claude, brilliant at data analysis. Guess what? Combine the two, sorted. So really big learning exercise for me. I would much rather be helping other people to get AI literate than spending time building other people's bots. So I won't do that again, Lucy. I'm really sorry I did it in the first place. But actually the learning is useful.
I was going to say, yeah, that has been a really useful opportunity to push certain tools to their current limits, and you've come up with a solution to combine them.
We're going to ask Ian about this later on, right? Because the person was going, is it ready? Have you done it? And we need it on Monday. And I'm like, it's new technology, so they've been hassling me. And we'll ask Ian about this. It's like the expectations with new technology. You've really got to be open and honest about the experimentation part of it, which I think is a trick that I missed.
And people don't understand. And so therefore will think, well, it's just pushing a few buttons, isn't it? Where's the goods?
Yeah, it's just like a magical robot. Just give me the stuff. Give me the stuff now. Andrew. So yeah, big lesson learned for me.
I had exactly the same. And it's something really simple. And I'm a little bit embarrassed to say, because I like to think that I'm pretty darn good now with the whole Gen AI game. But I was trying to create an image, and this image was part infographic, part image, part diagram. The instructions were really quite clear of what I wanted and the colours that I wanted. Could it do it? And I tried ChatGPT. I tried Copilot. I went into Canva's AI. I even used the Canva GPT in ChatGPT. The laptop nearly went out the window. It would have been quicker to have trained a pigeon to use felt tip pens to create the image. So yeah, that's my bugbear, and I'm still trying to work my way how to best use the different tools to. And I wasn't looking for a photo as such. As I said, it was a mixture of an image and a diagram. And I struggled. So I built it myself in design tools in the end.
It's not there yet, is it? You want to build an infographic, you're just kind of wasting your time because it comes up with weird kind of alien writing. So it can be really frustrating because you're like, you're so close, just one change, and it just messes everything up.
Changes everything. That's so annoying when I say, I love what you've done, but could you just change or get rid of the pigeon?
Get rid of the pigeon and the no, I was going to say something really inappropriate there. I managed to filter myself, which I'm really proud of, Lucy. Really proud of.
There you go. Moving on.
Thank you. We should get our guest.
I'm going to say next up, very excited, we have somebody to play with. Does that sound wrong?
Sounds fine.
Okay, Ian's waiting in the lobby. Should I let him in?
Thank you. We are very pleased to introduce our first guest to the Readiness podcast, Ian Glover. Ian, welcome.
Hi, glad to be here.
Hello,
So,
hello.
who am you? Who are you, and what do you do? Why are you here?
Well, I'm here because you asked me to come and talk about, I guess, everything to do with AI in the business I work in. So I'm Chief Digital Officer for Cromwell Tools. We're based in Leicester. And we've been looking at this stuff for probably, overall, like data science for the last kind of 8 or 9 years. But, from an AI perspective, more seriously in the last couple of years. Yeah.
So how would you explain what a Chief Digital Officer does, like if someone was an idiot? I'm not saying either Lucy or I are idiots, but for the listener. For the listener.
So I've been doing it for a couple of years now, and I'm kind of still discovering it myself. So between us, we can probably figure it out. I guess my job is everything really from it's quite a broad role, really. Quite often people call it Chief Technology Officer because it includes IT and a bit of data and the digitisation of the business as well. So everything really from the website to data science to, the IT folk asking you to switch things on and off again to make it work.
Gotcha.
That'll be me.
Because you do big stuff. But let's not get too bamboozled. Like, let's start small. So where are you at with Gen AI, like things like ChatGPT and Copilot, that sort of business, as a personal user?
So personal user, I mean, I've been interested in it for a number of years. I guess it really kind of went mad getting on for 2 years now ago when OpenAI released their version to the general public. And I kind of sat as part of the leadership team and said, as part of any other business in one of the meetings one day, this is going to revolutionise the world. And typically everybody in there went, oh yeah, let's see what. And I think the first example of it was we got the HR director in there, and I said, let's take your world for example. And I started writing job descriptions, building like literally live as part of the leadership team meeting. Here's a job description. Here's like our expectations of what they do. Here are their goals and objectives. Here is kind of the job offer, all of that kind of stuff, and build the interview and everything off the back of it. And I think from that moment, really, it became something that we've invested in actually as a business. Yeah. But then personally, I mean, I use it all the time. I'm like inherently lazy, so everything that I can do to try to make things better for me and easier for me. I'm not a great reader either, right? So all of that kind of stuff, I use it for everything that's words and context related to just kind of summarize my life for me. So yeah,
I love that. So it sounds like you inspired the leadership team with a couple of tips and tricks early on to help kind of get them on board, if you like, because I think a lot of other people, perhaps without that context, like you just said, you put it into the HR's kind of world, without that context, it was just a noise and possibly preferred to kind of head in sand, oh, that's not relevant to us.
Yeah, I think so. I'm just naturally curious, right? And I think it really helps, when you are to do these kind of things. I mean, I regularly speak to Andrew, right, which is the reason why I'm here talking to you guys now. But we just talk about the new stuff, right, and what that's going to mean, and have you seen this thing, and have you have a look at that thing, and I think when you're that way inclined, and I mean, my roles previously have always been about finding opportunity, right, and doing things in a way that's just a bit different to try to bring, whether it's a new technology to the world or there's just an easier way of doing things and streamlining processes and stuff like that. So I think it helps to be naturally interested in that stuff as well. And I guess the other part of the question though, from a kind of driving the difference, it's not as quick as I thought it would be, actually.
No.
I thought the minute you show people this stuff, they'd be like, oh, yeah, I'm having some of that, and just, going after it and researching it in their own time and like understanding how they can make their jobs better. And I think people are a little bit fearful of it. And, what I think one of the biggest things that I've learned for sure since starting the conversations, lots of years ago, but really kind of recently since the tools have been mainstream, is a lot about this is coming, guys, right? Learn to embrace it and use it as a crutch for you to be able to do your job better, to be able to operate your life in a better way, to be more efficient and get on with the stuff that actually really add the value to. And I do see that there's kind of two schools now of people that really do embrace it and those people that just seem to avoid it. And, unfortunately, I think those people that are avoiding it are really missing out. And who knows, as this thing develops, what that really means for the future for those people.
There's a polarization, right? So if I'm a line manager and I've got two people on my team who aren't using it and two people who are, the performance gap's going to grow. So sort of addressing that with compassion is quite a challenge.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the other challenge as well is that companies as a whole, especially when you're talking about, the other, a big area that's important for us, right, is information security and new technologies like this, making sure that we can embrace and move as quickly as we want to, but do it in a secure way that means that, personal data is not getting out in the wrong places and all that kind of stuff. The kind of guidelines around it are the things that I think are also slowing businesses down as well. A lot of the technologies that you and I speak about, Andrew, that are, around the corner, it'll be months before they're in a way in which a larger business can kind of, utilize them on a day-to-day basis as well. So that's kind of the other side of things, which is a bit of a battle for us.
Yeah,
Do you think that's why organisations are looking at such small numbers when it comes to piloting the likes of, say, Copilot across an organisation? Because that seems to have baffled me when it, equates to, say, 3% of the workforce are trialling something, which doesn't seem particularly useful.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't. So I've been using Copilot probably for 18 months or so, and I think so, because I thought Microsoft was stolen a march for this. This is gonna be like the way that things go.
Not quite.
People have really people have really struggled, I think, to embrace it. We've got like a handful of licenses in roles that we thought would really benefit from using it. And I think that it doesn't appear to have happened, and I don't really know the answer for that. I think it's probably a combination of the things we've talked about already a little bit. It's a bit of a gimmick to start with, and you kind of have a go with it. But I know we'll probably talk about it a little bit later. But like some of the really big stuff that would be possible to do with this kind of technology, given the kind of the amount of information that these technologies can consume and feed back on, would really deliver benefit hugely to businesses. But, I don't really understand why people are fearful of embracing it still at the moment. And it may be that Copilot actually is probably not quite yet where it needs to be. I think Microsoft have got a bit of work to do there in comparison with some other tools. But
agree.
It could be linked to that. I don't know.
So what have you learned then from talking to your executive team about generative AI and AI in general? I suppose what I'm thinking is what advice have you got to other, chief digital officers about how you engage your team in the conversation?
Okay. So that's a tricky one, right? So we've been doing work from a data science perspective for a number of years. And when we talk about that, it's kind of the kind of normal machine learning and traditional data science, which sounds crazy talking about that now, right? But, back in the old days when we did machine learning,
somewhere over there in the cupboard.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we've been doing that. So those conversations have been part of the conversations for a number of years. And, that's everything from understanding potential of customers to, where you should fish and all that kind of good stuff, right? That kind of comes with that, a whole host of things. And then we've kind of resourced up a data science team, which is kind of then it's a mixture of that sort of traditional stuff and then the kind of newfangled things that we're working on. We then have kind of because we're part of a broader business, we talk to other data scientists in the broader business as well about what they're doing, the security around it and all that kind of good stuff. And then the way in which we've tackled it actually is to effectively have almost like an ideation workshop where you kind of go through and go like, this is the technology that's available, kind of talk a little bit about that. Hypothetically, where do we want to get to? So we have like a list of 70 or 80 things that are just constantly like working their way up the list as we kind of prioritize things in different ways and look at the way in which we do things. And it's become kind of an integral part then of next year's development. And it has been for the last couple of years. We talk about it actively from a leadership team. I think that the hardest thing is always kind of assigning targets to these things, because there's a lot of unknown, right? Especially when you're on the cutting edge of things, you're building things yourselves. There are a few people that have done a few bits like this out there, but your very specific example of what you're doing, whatever it is, if it's a big enough item, it becomes very bespoke to what you're doing. And I think it becomes really difficult then to put numbers on things. So you've got to have quite an open-minded leadership team that are prepared to take a bit of a gamble on some of this stuff, to be able to, have the conversation around, I think it's probably going to give us this thing, but until we start playing with it, then we're not really sure. So I think the key really is for leadership teams to understand the potential, but then don't put all your eggs in that basket and hope that that's going to solve all the world's problems, right? Just gamble on it a little bit and let people play, and just trust them to be as conscientious and try to deliver what they can out of it, right? And I think that's probably the best way of attacking things, because I think it is the answer to everything ultimately. But there's a lot of figuring out that people need to do in the meantime.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of speaks to, if organisations focus so much on the use of, and I'm going to speak specifically about generative AI to improve productivity, and we're going to get 20 to 40% productivity gains, which we have seen through our immersion programs. But as you've just said, there's a spectrum of and a range of adoption, from people that are really happy to embrace it, and then people that are scared, or that are fearful of it, or just don't want to. And so I think some people could equally be a bit worried that the whip is going to be cracked. Cracked, is that the right saying? On them.
Yeah, cracked above them or around them. Yeah. So there's a sort of cultural element as well, right?
So there's two big things for me, and I think especially when you work on the big projects, right, the things that are going to make a difference to a lot of people. There are two things. Actually, the technology now, once you've got to a place where you can do these things in a secure way, and like all the good stuff we talked about from an information security perspective, there are two big challenges beyond that. One is the people change, which we'll talk about in a sec, but the second one actually is integration. So our data science team was only a small team. There's like 3 or 4 people in it, and they're brilliant 4 people, right? They're the smartest people I know, but they can build the technology and the solutions so much faster than they used to be able to 3, 4, 5 years ago. But the hardest bit's then making it work in the business. So integrating with legacy systems, making sure that they're communicating in a way that they need to, closing the loop on things, especially if you're retraining off the back of work and decisions that are being made by humans. And then the second bit, like I said, is the kind of change piece from a people perspective, bringing them on the journey early enough, involving them in the design phases, making sure they feel as though they're part of the product that you're trying to produce and the solution, and understanding where that's heading. And I think, I mean, until we get to the point where we are in that world where, machines take over everything, right? I think until we're at that point, which is a long way off, I think. But I think keeping a human in the loop is really important.
Absolutely.
Especially when it comes to customer communications and things like that. We've already seen examples regularly, which I find quite amusing, where somebody figures out that there's a generative AI at the back end of a chatbot somewhere, and it's got it swearing in a few minutes' time. I think it's great.
Just want to pick up on one thing that you've said, which is the change management and the human bit, right? And so something that we're quite strong on, Lucy, it's fair to say, isn't it, is that we advocate for HR leaders to become data fluent and AI fluent. And we advocate for digital and data and information officers to be human and change fluent. And that's where the good bit is, right?
Yeah, and it's definitely something that I have to dial up from an effort perspective. I kind of, like we talked earlier on, I come from a background of just wanting to get things done and make changes positively, and I've always struggled with that. You've got to bring people through the change curve with you, right? They don't all move at the same. I know, ridiculous, right? They don't all move at the same pace, and I think that means certainly now we tackle things from a change perspective. So making sure, like you say, I mean, the leaders need to be aware of where things are and how it impacts people, and all that kind of, because everything that you do from a leadership perspective, unless you consider these things as we go, you're in danger of adding some efficiency somewhere that's just deducted somewhere else, because you've not brought people on the journey with you.
Yeah,
or you automate a process. Sorry,
I've got 2 questions at once. Then I struggle with that. Go for it.
Or spending a lot of time and money on building something really shiny. That's my way of understanding the big robotics stuff, or bespoke AI builds that then doesn't get adopted across the organization because people don't understand it, and it'll be the cultural elements that cause a barrier. And then I've heard a lot of organizations kind of scratch their head going, why aren't people getting it, using it,
or even over checking it?
Yeah. So the way in which we've tried to, I mean, one of the first things we talked about, I think the way in which we've kind of tackled some of that stuff is we're trying to only hit a couple of really big things at once. And then everything else, then it's to kind of encourage people to use the tools that are available, and all the kind of good stuff we talked about earlier. I think if you try to do more than that, it can just you build all the big shiny things and no one actually uses it, right? No one goes and embraces it. And we've definitely had examples where we've had expectations. The data all tells us that this thing should be doing this thing. Why are we not seeing these results? So an example of that is we are in the process of putting in a piece of generative AI that supports our email orders. So customers email us in. The Gen AI understands the context of the email. It kind of triages the work based on the context. And then when we have orders, we kind of help the human place the order. So we basically build out a quote automatically based on understanding the requirement from the email. And that can be everything from a PDF attachment to just some text or photos or whatever the case may be. And then we help the agents then by saying, we think all of these things are right on the order. These are the last couple of things you just need to check. Can you go and make sure that they're right? And we were seeing no changes at all we expected efficiencies to change in that area, things to speed up, people to be going to work on more things that are more important from a customer perspective to help them with the more complex queries, all that kind of good stuff. Nothing. We didn't see anything at all.
No change.
And we realised that, no change. In fact, in some cases, it was even slower. And we were processing hundreds a day. It's like, I don't understand how this is happening, right? This should be giving us some benefit. And what we found out was that we continued to kind of target our advisors on kind of quality of the quotes that were in place. So they were checking everything and rekeying everything, right? Because they were making sure that everything was right. So this was it was almost like an extra step we'd added to the loop rather than taking some steps away. And when we went and spoke to people, we're like, well, how often is it wrong? And they're like, well, never. But so we were like, well,
checking it.
Let's stop doing that bit then now, right? So we'll kind of see where we end up. And I think it's that you can't just make assumptions. You've really got to, make sure that you put a bow on everything to make sure that every single step is understood. And I think the other important thing as well is that when you set out to do things, although I kind of contradict myself a little bit, have an expectation of how you're going to measure it and make sure that you're achieving what you're setting out to achieve. Because otherwise you can end up in danger of kind of confirmation bias. I think it's delivering what I need it to. Measure this thing because it feels like it should be delivering this thing, and And so I think that's an important step as well. And then I think on the other side of things, when it comes to making sure that we're having the right conversations, people are involved, all that kind of stuff. We have change steer codes now, and that involves all areas of the business that are impacted. And we have specific conversations around the people as part of that. And, it also helps us with things like, organising the next thing we're going to work on the list of 70 big things that we're going to do. So, I think all of that helps. But you need to put those foundations in place, because otherwise you'll just build shiny things forever and they'll just sit in a cupboard.
Thanks. So
Yeah.
we've got. Sorry, Lucy. In case you had a question, I'll shut up. But we've got time for one last question.
Go for it.
Alrighty. So if you, Ian, were marooned on a desert island and you were allowed one generative AI tool, ChatGPT, Copilot, Perplexity, Claude, Anthropic, I don't know, whichever one is popular today, which one would you have if you knew it was going to be for a year?
Do I get the updates?
Yeah, you get all the updates. It's like a magical problem. Like you're not actually
I'm
stuck.
not having Copilot, and that can stay in the box. I'm not having Copilot. Probably ChatGPT, I would think.
Can you just confirm you weren't told to say that? But by us.
Yeah, I can confirm you weren't told to say that. Yeah, I wasn't told to say that. It would be ChatGPT, and probably for the fact that it's the one I've been closest to, I would say, throughout the last couple of years. I think that, when new things are happening, they seem to kind of be at the forefront of building a complete package, and that for me, I think, is the answer. I know lots of people are catching up now, and there are other things, if they specialise in areas, probably better. But I think as an overall package goes, it's this one. I'm not sure how we get off the desert island, if I'm honest, but
no, we're tool agnostic, but we agree.
Can I just ask a question on the back of that then? What's your stance on the organisational toolkit with that in mind? And of course, there's a difference from one user to users across your organisation, but I'm just interested on your view of use of ChatGPT across the business. We hear in lots of client conversations the fear factor and the lockdown of that, and just Copilot. What's your take on that? Whether that's personal and or for the fit of your organisation?
Well, this is in danger of doubling the length of your podcast, by me answering this, but I'll try and keep it short. I think that, so as a business, we have an AI policy that is kind of a guidance thing. I think, Andrew, I was talking from you once. If you're not prepared to leave it on a bus, don't put it into a GPT, right?
Absolutely.
I think what we'll end up with, if I'm honest, is Copilot's probably not gonna go mainstream unless something dramatically happens, like they make it free, for example.
Or good.
I think that it's probably not going to end up happening. But I think what we'll end up with is effectively building something that creates a secure endpoint. So we already use ChatGPT through Azure to do a lot of our AI stuff. We'd probably build like an intranet version of a GPT, which essentially just uses ChatGPT, but through a secure connection. As far as the stance for the rest of the business goes, definitely encourage people to use it. Don't put customer information in there. Don't put personal information in there. Don't put business information in there. Use it to support, I don't know, writing job descriptions or, summarising documents the way, there's not any kind of sensitive information in there, that kind of thing. Yeah. So definitely encourage, but within guidelines, especially with those kind of bigger, not bigger, but those that are kind of in the public domain. I think it's, and I think, a lot of these companies need to think about, if they want businesses to uptake it and make it kind of work quicker, there just needs to be a way to ensure that businesses are aware of how secure their solutions are, build solutions that purely are that way. And if they are already, then kind of advertise it and market it in that way, because I think it's not very clear. And, you know, we jump through all sorts of hoops to make sure that we're using secure connections.
Yeah,
Thank you.
We like to use the term train and trust when it comes to people. So if they know how to use the tools effectively, but also safely and responsibly, we should have trust in our people to use them in that way.
Yeah. I agree with that entirely.
Thank you so much for your time, Ian. Chief Digital Officer for Cromwell Tools. It's been a very lively discussion. I feel like I've learned a lot. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Ian.
Dear Lucy, help me fix my techie heart. My life is off, I need a brand new start.
Lucy, did I mention that your hair looks fabulous today?
So, you know me, I'm not a morning person, and this is kind of bedhead hair. But
I thought it looked all right.
But to tame the beast, I did cheat and get a little 1, 2 behind here. Awful.
So it's just the front, like the back is like a bedraggled sort of soaking in chip fat. That's French fry fat for our international colleagues. Okay, that's fine. Anyway, I just thought I'd just sort of like prime you and get you feeling good, because this is a challenging letter.
Okay. No, I'm ready. I'm here. We love you. We will help you.
Okay, big hearts and big hugs. Dear Lucy, I'm part of an HR team feeling a little bit overwhelmed with all the Gen AI tools that people are talking about, and would love to get your take. ChatGPT, Copilot, Claude. I've heard you talk about Perplexity, Beautiful.ai. And then I heard talk of Azure in my company, which I don't even know what the heck that is. What is best for what? What do I need to do? Do I need to use them all? Brackets, I'm just getting my head around ChatGPT, but we have Copilot at work. I'm thinking, how much is all this costing each month as well? Hoping for some user-friendly clarity here. Thanks, Marcus, real name.
Marcus, I definitely feel your pain. It's overwhelming to start, isn't it? You're a bit like, which one? What, when? And we were actually asked to provide a kind of matrix to give some clarity of some of the different nuances, because it's right and it's true, isn't it, Andrew, that different tools perform in different ways and are better at some things than others. It's almost like it is a team.
Yeah, it is a team of it's like an array of colleagues. But you don't want to spend everything costs 20 quid a month. You don't want 100 quid's worth of tools, or maybe you do.
So what would you, because you've got a really good analogy, Andrew, on the difference. Let's say if we're talking about content creation and the output, the difference between ChatGPT, Copilot and Claude.
ChatGPT is like a willing intern who's like really, really smart and can produce amazing things, but they need a lot of support and they're not very worldly wise. Whereas Copilot is more like a sort of like a stiff librarian who's like, you're not having that. It's like a sort of muzzled version of ChatGPT. Claude has got like a warmth to it. Now, recognize this. When you ever hear a musician go, listen to these strings on this guitar, twang, listen to the warmth. I'm like, I can't hear it. What are you talking about? But the more familiar you get with the tools, the more you sort of start to understand their personalities. I think I'm in danger of disappearing at my own backside in saying this, but we do spend time with the tools, and we love and hate different tools at different times, right?
And you can use Claude on the free version, so that doesn't need to cost anything. And I do actually like to compare and contrast from time to time. And so I will produce a document, an article, whatever I'm doing in ChatGPT, and I will just then compare and have a look at the output from Claude. And I think that's quite a useful exercise for people to feel for themselves. Copilot, it sounds like, is the tool of choice within the office. So I don't know whether Marcus has permission to use ChatGPT. Said he's trying to get familiar with that. But yeah, he's right. There are a number of different tools. And then when you look at other kind of software applications that have AI in them, your Beautiful.ai to design things, or you might prefer to use Canva, Notebook LM, captions for videos. It's worth exploring. But if we don't want to overwhelm, I would be saying you've got to use Copilot because that's in the office, but you might need to move to ChatGPT on certain exercises. But Claude, as you mentioned earlier, was really good from a data analytical element. but can often be softer and some people say more human-like in its outputs.
Absolutely. So the spectrum, right? The spectrum in my mind is on the right hand edge, you've got bring your own AI to work. You give every employee £100 a month and say, use the tools that you love, right? Which just strikes fear into the heart of every chief information officer. Because you really, really got to trust people that they're using the tools appropriately and there's no wastage. Other end of the spectrum is you've got Copilot, everything else is banned. And so, Marcus, you just got to find your position. So it depends on your company size, how much you trust people. So there's a lot of factors to consider.
The bottom line is good on you for trying the different tools. Keep going. Claude, you can have for free. Copilot, you've got at your work. ChatGPT, yes, definitely paid for the paid license. And the other one, of course, not to forget, is Perplexity.ai. You can use that for free. And it is definitely the go-to for fact finding, for research, if you're looking at market trends, insights, etc.
If AI could take over one of your daily tasks permanently, which would you happily hand over?
Ooh, I don't know. Well, that's interesting, isn't it? It comes down to the joy of work as well, in terms of if it could take over. So I think I'm actually going to say none.
I'm quite happy if AI could wash me completely. I'd love that. I'd find washing such a pain.
Would you rather an AI assistant that's incredibly polite but long-winded, or one that's concise but a little bit rude?
Rude, concise and rude, because that's sort of much in line with my personality anyway.
Would you rather have ChatGPT as your only conversation partner or rely solely on Copilot to finish all of your sentences?
Oh my giddy gumdrops. I think, we really need to be careful that we're not hating on Copilot all the time. So with that in mind, I'm going to say Copilot forever. It's my bestie. It's my heart.
One of the things that I think would be really useful to cover is the discussion around prompting. We've said we ban prompt engineering because it's a stupid technical term, but from the HR workshop that we did, again, mentioning a couple of people were concerned about using generative AI because it's not authentic, because it doesn't use original kind of thought. And for me, that comes down to lack of literacy in knowing how to actually use the tools properly. So I'd quite like us to talk through our managed framework. I think that would be quite useful.
Okay. Yeah. So we're going to take prompting cheat sheets and stick them in the trash, because that's kind of what they're worth, because they're not really related to your context. So we've developed a prompting framework which we'll happily share with you, and it gets you to 80% brilliant in 5 minutes. That's why we're so proud of it.
Absolutely. If you want to get 80% brilliant, next week's podcast is for you. The other area that I think would be really interesting to talk about is guilt. AI guilt, it is a thing, or cheat GPT.
Yeah, because you're interested in this because you've been invited to do a keynote to some women in leadership, right? And those are a couple of the themes. It's the sort of psychological burden of running things outside of work, perhaps family, and also the guilt. That's not a brilliant combination. So we're really going to do a deep dive on that in our next podcast.
Yeah, and it's a shame to see that women are slow to adopt generative AI when comparing within the workplace. And it's always the women through our immersion sessions and workshops that do mention the struggles around, it feels like I'm cheating. So I do think that would be a really valuable conversation to be had.
We're working on a guest for that topic as well. So we'll keep you posted. And if you want to get in touch with us about any of the content, if you've got any critical feedback, it's lucy@uptakeai.co.uk. Any compliments, it's andrew@uptakeai.co.uk. Also, people can get in touch with you for Dear Lucy, right? lucy@uptakeai.co.uk.
Dear Lucy.
Dear Lucy. I look forward to seeing you on the next poddy.
Yay. Ta-ra for now.
Welcome to the AI. Read in the podcast.